Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The quantum readings made no sense. According to her instruments at Cambridge University, impossible energy signatures were appearing in 12 major cities around the world at exactly the same time. London, New York, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, Paris, Delhi, Cairo, Sydney, São Paulo, Lagos, and Mexico City all showed the same strange patterns. "This can't be right," she whispered, checking her equipment for the third time, but every sensor confirmed what seemed impossible. Something was about to happen, and it was happening everywhere at once. Sarah picked up her phone to call her colleague when the sky above London began to change. A soft blue light appeared in the air, growing brighter and larger. People on the street stopped walking and pointed upward. Car engines died. Streetlights flickered and went out. The light grew into a perfect circle 30 feet wide, hovering 200 feet above Big Ben. Then something stepped through. It looked human, but wrong in ways that made Sarah's mind struggle to understand what she was seeing. The figure was tall, maybe 8 feet, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Patterns of light moved under its surface like living circuits. Its eyes were the strangest part. They shifted colors constantly, showing spectrums of light that human eyes shouldn't be able to see. More figures emerged from the light. 6 of them, each slightly different but all sharing that same unsettling beauty. They didn't fall when they stepped through. Instead, they simply stood in the air as if it were solid ground. Similar scenes played out in 11 other cities around the world. News channels scrambled to broadcast what was happening. Social media exploded with videos and photos. Government emergency lines jammed with panicked calls. The beings didn't move for several minutes. They just stood there watching the crowds gather below. Then, without warning, every electronic device on Earth received the same signal at the exact same moment. Television screens lit up. Phones buzzed. Radios crackled to life. Computer monitors displayed the same image. The face of one of the beings speaking in perfect English, though somehow everyone on Earth heard it in their own language. "People of Earth," the being said, its voice carrying a strange harmonic quality that seemed to resonate in listeners' bones. "We are what you call the Ascended. We are your descendants from the year 4000 AD. We have returned to prepare you for what you must become." Sarah felt her legs go weak. She grabbed her desk chair and sat down hard, never taking her eyes off the screen. "We know this is difficult to accept," the being continued. "We know you have questions. We know many of you are afraid. This is natural. Change has always frightened your species, even though change is what makes you special." The being's image shifted, showing scenes that looked like Earth but weren't quite right. Cities that seemed grown rather than built. Skies filled with structures that defied physics. Humans who moved like dancers through 3-dimensional space. "We are Marcus, though our true name exists in frequencies your current minds cannot process. We speak for those who came before and those who will come after. We have watched you struggle. We have seen you survive what should have destroyed you. Now we offer you the truth you have always suspected but never dared to believe." Military jets screamed overhead in London. Sarah could hear similar sounds from cities around the world, through the news broadcast that continued to stream on her computer. The being called Marcus seemed to notice the aircraft approaching but showed no concern. "Your governments will try to fight us," Marcus said with something that might have been sadness. "This too is natural. Humans have always fought what they do not understand. But understand this, we are not your enemies. We are what you will become if you are strong enough to survive what is coming." A fighter jet fired a missile at one of the beings hovering over Tokyo. The missile passed right through the figure as if it were made of light. The being didn't even seem to notice. "Violence will not work against us," Marcus continued. "Not because we are stronger, but because we exist partially outside your current understanding of reality. We have evolved beyond the need for physical form as you know it. We can touch your world, but your world cannot touch us unless we allow it." Marcus raised one glowing hand. Across the world, people watched in amazement as the beings began to demonstrate their abilities. In New York, one of the figures touched a dying tree in Central Park. The tree immediately burst into full bloom, more vibrant and healthy than it had ever been. In Cairo, another being gestured toward a group of protesters who had been injured in clashes with police. Their wounds healed instantly, leaving not even scars. "We do not come to conquer," Marcus said. "We do not come to rule. We come to warn and to prepare. Your species stands at a crossroads that every intelligent life form must eventually face. You can remain as you are and face extinction, or you can evolve and claim your place among the cosmic community. Sarah realized she was crying. The implications of what she was hearing were overwhelming. If these beings were truly human descendants from 2,000 years in the future, then everything she thought she knew about human evolution was wrong. Dr. Sarah Chen of Cambridge University, Marcus said, and Sarah nearly fell off her chair. The being was looking directly at her through the screen, as if it could see her through her computer camera. You have spent your life studying how humans evolved. You will help us show your people the truth of what they really are. How did it know her name? How did it know what she did? Sarah's hands shook as she stared at the screen. We will establish communication centers in each of the 12 cities where we have appeared, Marcus announced. Those who wish to learn the truth may come. Those who wish to prepare for what is coming may join us. But know this, what we offer is not easy. Evolution never is. Some of you will not survive the process of becoming what you must become. The beings began to descend toward the ground in each city. As they landed, the areas around them changed. Buildings shifted and transformed. Streets became something that looked like flowing crystal. Plants grew larger and more vibrant. The air itself seemed to shimmer with new possibilities. You have 7 days to decide, Marcus said. 7 days to choose whether you will face the future as you are, or as you could become. Choose wisely. The universe is watching, and it will not give you a second chance. The transmission ended. Every screen went black. The beings disappeared from view, though the transformed areas around their landing sites remained changed. Sarah sat in her office, staring at the dark computer screen. Outside, she could hear sirens wailing and people shouting. The world had just changed forever, and she had been specifically chosen to be part of whatever came next. She picked up her phone and started making calls. If she was going to help humanity understand what it was facing, she needed to know everything these ascended beings were willing to tell her. And she needed to know it soon. The future of the human race might depend on what happened in the next 7 days. 3 days had passed since the Ascended arrived, and the world had not stopped shaking. Governments declared martial law. Religious leaders called emergency meetings. Scientists worked around the clock trying to understand what they had witnessed. Dr. Sarah Chen stood outside what used to be the United Nations building in New York. It no longer looked like any building she had ever seen. The concrete and steel had somehow transformed into a structure that seemed to be made of living crystal. It rose into the sky in impossible spirals, glowing with soft light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Dr. Chen, a voice said behind her. She turned to see a woman in a military uniform approaching. I'm General Morrison. You're the scientist Marcus mentioned? Yes, Sarah replied, still staring at the transformed building. How is this even possible? Matter doesn't just change like this. That's what we're hoping you can help us understand, the general said. Representatives from 12 countries are inside. The Ascended are waiting to speak with us. Sarah nodded and followed the general through an entrance that seemed to form in the crystal wall as they approached. Inside the building was even more amazing. The walls showed moving images like living murals. The floor felt solid but seemed to ripple with energy beneath their feet. And the ceiling opened up into what looked like a view of deep space, complete with stars and distant galaxies. 20 people sat in chairs that had grown from the floor itself. Each chair seemed designed perfectly for its occupant, as if the building somehow knew exactly what would make each person comfortable. Sarah sat in hers and immediately felt more relaxed than she had in days. Marcus appeared in the center of the room, not walking from somewhere else but simply materializing as if he had always been there. Up close, Sarah could see more details about his transformed appearance. His skin wasn't just glowing, it was translucent, and underneath she could see networks of light that pulsed and moved like neural pathways made of pure energy. Thank you for coming, Marcus said, his voice carrying that same harmonic quality they had heard in the broadcast. We know this is difficult. We know many of you are afraid or angry or confused. These are natural reactions to what we must show you. What exactly are you? Asked President Williams, the American representative. What happened to humanity to make you this? Marcus gestured, and the air in the center of the room began to show images. Not flat pictures on a screen, but three-dimensional scenes that seemed as real as the people watching them. First, you must understand the truth about your origins, Marcus said. Humanity did not evolve naturally on Earth. You were placed here as an experiment by beings called the Architects. The images showed vast alien intelligence, Being so advanced they existed more as concepts than physical forms. Sarah watched in fascination as the images depicted these architects seeding planets across the galaxy with different forms of life. The architects have existed for millions of years, Marcus continued. They create life, guide its development, and when it reaches a certain point they either allow it to join their cosmic community or they eliminate it. Most species follow predictable patterns. They develop technology, explore space, and eventually stagnate. But humans were different? Sarah asked. Humans were very different, Marcus replied, and Sarah thought she detected pride in his voice. The architects expected you to follow the same pattern as every other species. Instead, you did something that surprised them. You adapted. The images changed to show early human history, but not the version Sarah knew from textbooks. This showed humans surviving ice ages not through luck but through rapid genetic changes. It showed early humans developing language in response to existential threats. It showed the development of agriculture, tool use, and eventually technology as adaptive responses to challenges that should have destroyed the species. Every major leap in human evolution happened when extinction was imminent, Marcus explained. Your species doesn't just evolve randomly, you evolve on demand, transforming yourselves to meet whatever challenges you face. This ability terrified the architects. General Morrison leaned forward. Terrified them, why? Because in all their millions of years of existence, they had never seen a species capable of unlimited adaptive evolution, Marcus said. Most life forms hit evolutionary dead ends. Humans don't. You can become whatever you need to become to survive. The images showed what looked like natural disasters throughout history, but Marcus revealed the truth behind them: the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, the supervolcanic eruption that nearly eliminated early humans, the ice ages, the plagues. The architects tried to eliminate humanity multiple times, Marcus said. Each time humans not only survived but came back stronger. Eventually, the architects realized they had created something beyond their control. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What does this mean for us now? Marcus looked directly at her, his shifting eyes showing something that might have been compassion. It means the final test is coming. The architects have decided that humanity has become too dangerous to leave unchecked. They are returning to finish what they started millions of years ago. The room fell silent except for the soft humming of the crystal walls. Finally, the British representative spoke up. You said you're humans from the year 4000. How did you survive? We evolved, Marcus said simply. When the architects came the first time in what you would call the 25th century, humanity had a choice: remain human and face extinction, or transform into something that could stand against cosmic forces. And you chose to transform, Sarah said. Some of us did, Marcus replied. The process wasn't easy. Many who attempted it died. Others transformed into something so alien they could no longer be called human. But those who succeeded became what you see before you. Marcus gestured to himself and the room around them. We transcended physical limitations. We learned to exist partially outside normal space and time. We became bridges between dimensions. But we paid a price. What price? President Williams asked. We lost much of what made us human, Marcus said, and Sarah could hear sadness in his voice. We gained cosmic awareness but lost the ability to feel simple human emotions. We became powerful but no longer truly alive in any way you would recognize. The images around them showed the ascended of 4000 AD in their daily lives. They looked more like forces of nature than people. Beautiful and terrible, moving through realities that human minds couldn't fully grasp. We exist now primarily to guide and protect the species we once were, Marcus continued. We came back to this time because we learned something important. The architects are coming again, and this time they won't make the mistake of underestimating humanity. When? Sarah asked. Soon, Marcus replied. Their fleet is already moving through space toward your solar system. They will arrive within months, not years. General Morrison stood up. Then we need to prepare our defenses. We need weapons, strategies. Traditional defenses will be useless, Marcus interrupted gently. The architects exist on a scale that makes your current technology insignificant. They can destroy planets with a thought. They can alter the laws of physics in local space. They can reach across dimensions to attack you in ways you cannot imagine. Then what do we do? President Williams demanded. Marcus looked around the room at each representative. You evolve. Just as your ancestors did when faced with extinction. You adapt. You become something new. You want us to become like you, Sarah said. It wasn't a question. Not exactly like us, Marcus replied. We hope you can find a better path. We sacrificed our humanity to gain the power to survive. Perhaps your generation can find a way to evolve while keeping what makes you essentially human. The images around them changed one final time, showing possible futures. Some showed Earth as a dead world. Others showed transformed humans living in harmony with cosmic forces while retaining their essential humanity. The choice is yours, Marcus said, but choose quickly. The architect's fleet draws closer each day, and once they arrive, there will be no time for gradual change. Sarah looked around at the other representatives. Fear, determination, and hope mixed on their faces. The future of humanity rested on decisions they would make in the coming days. How do we begin? She asked. Marcus smiled, the first truly human expression she had seen from him. With volunteers, and with faith that humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to adapt and overcome. 2 weeks had passed since the revelation at the United Nations. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself standing on what could only be described as a ship, though calling it that seemed inadequate. The ascended vessel existed in space near Earth, but it also seemed to exist in several other dimensions at the same time. Marcus had invited her and representatives from the major world powers aboard to show them what humanity was truly facing. The interior of the ship defied all logic. Walls curved in directions that shouldn't exist. Corridors led to rooms that were somehow larger than the spaces that contained them. And through transparent sections of the hull, Sarah could see not just the blackness of space, but glimpses of other realities layered on top of each other. Your minds are struggling to process what you're seeing, Marcus explained as he led the group through the ship. This vessel exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. What you're experiencing is your brains trying to interpret input they weren't designed to handle. President Williams gripped a railing that seemed to flow like liquid under his hand. How is any of this possible? When you evolve beyond physical limitations, you discover that reality is far more flexible than you imagined, Marcus replied. Matter, energy, space, time, these are just different aspects of the same fundamental force. Once you understand that force, you can manipulate it. They entered what Marcus called the observation chamber. It was a sphere with no visible floor or walls, just empty space filled with stars. Sarah felt like she was floating in the void of space itself, though she could still breathe normally. Now, Marcus said, we will show you what approaches. The stars around them shifted and moved. Sarah realized they weren't just looking at space. They were looking through space across vast distances in real time. The view moved past planets and solar systems deeper into the galaxy until it focused on something that made her blood freeze. Massive structures moved through space, each one larger than Earth's moon. They weren't ships in any sense that humans would understand. They were geometric forms that seemed to bend space around themselves, traveling at speeds that should have been impossible. And there were thousands of them. The architect fleet, Marcus said quietly. They have been traveling toward your solar system for over a century. Each structure you see contains the power to reshape entire worlds. General Morrison, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. How big are those things? The smallest is approximately 4,000 miles in diameter, Marcus replied. The largest is roughly the size of your planet Jupiter. Sarah felt sick. How can we possibly fight something like that? You cannot fight them, Marcus said. Not as you are now. But observe more closely. See what they have done to other worlds. The view changed, showing planets that had once supported life. But these weren't destroyed worlds. They were transformed ones. Cities that looked like they had been grown rather than built covered the surfaces. The life forms moving through these cities were humanoid, but clearly not human anymore. The architects don't destroy civilizations, Marcus explained. They reshape them. They take species that show potential and edit them, remove what they consider dangerous traits, enhance what they consider useful ones. The result is always the same: intelligent, peaceful, productive beings who serve the architects without question. Slaves, President Williams said. Not exactly, Marcus replied. The modified beings are happy. They feel fulfilled. They believe they are living perfect lives, but they have no ambition, no drive to explore or grow or change. They exist in a state of permanent contentment, doing exactly what the architects designed them to do. Sarah stared at the images of the transformed worlds. The beings living there moved with purpose, but there was something missing from their behavior. They looked like people, but they acted more like very sophisticated machines. "What makes humans different?" she asked. "Why don't they just modify us like they did these other species?" Marcus turned to look at her directly. "Because humans resist modification. Your adaptive evolution makes you extremely difficult to change permanently. Every time the architects tried to alter early humans, you evolved around their changes. You developed immunity to their tools. You found ways to preserve your essential nature even when everything else about you was transformed." The view shifted again, this time showing what looked like a war. But it wasn't a war between armies or ships. It was a war between different concepts of reality itself. The Ascended from 4000 AD battled against geometric forms that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "This was our first encounter with the Architect fleet," Marcus explained. "We had evolved far beyond our original human forms, but we were still no match for beings that had existed for millions of years. We lost, but you survived," General Morrison pointed out. "Some of us survived," Marcus corrected, "and we learned something important. The architects cannot be defeated through conventional means. They exist on a scale that makes physical force irrelevant, but they can be reasoned with." Sarah felt a spark of hope. "Reasoned with?" "The architects are not evil," Marcus said. "They genuinely believe they are helping the species they modify. From their perspective, they are saving civilizations from the chaos and destruction that comes with unlimited growth and change. They have seen what happens when species evolve beyond all control. The images around them showed scenes of cosmic destruction. Entire star systems consumed by beings that had evolved beyond recognition. Realities torn apart by creatures that had gained godlike powers, but lacked the wisdom to use them responsibly. "This is what the architects fear," Marcus continued. "They have seen species evolve into cosmic parasites that consume everything in their path. They believe the only safe course is to guide evolution along predetermined paths." "And humans?" Sarah asked. "Humans represent their greatest fear and their greatest hope," Marcus replied. "You are the first species they have encountered that might be capable of unlimited evolution while retaining wisdom and restraint. But they are not convinced you will make that choice." President Williams stepped forward. "What do you mean?" Marcus gestured, and the images changed to show Earth's history from the architect's perspective. Wars, pollution, environmental destruction, weapons capable of destroying all life on the planet. The architects look at human history and see a species that consistently chooses short-term gain over long-term survival, Marcus explained. They see beings who develop nuclear weapons and then build enough of them to destroy their own world multiple times over. They see a species that is destroying its own environment, even though they know it will eventually kill them. Sarah felt a chill of recognition. From an outside perspective, human behavior did look insane. But they also see your potential, Marcus continued. The images shifted to show human achievements. Art, music, literature, acts of heroism and sacrifice, moments when humans chose to help others at great cost to themselves. Humans are the only species the architects have encountered that shows both unlimited potential for growth and genuine care for others, Marcus said. You are capable of becoming cosmic forces while still retaining love, compassion, and the desire to protect those weaker than yourselves. So what happens when they arrive? Sarah asked. They will test you, Marcus replied. They will present humanity with a choice. Accept modification and live as peaceful, productive beings under their guidance or face elimination. And if we refuse both options? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. That has never happened before. No species has ever been strong enough to reject both modification and destruction. Sarah looked around at the other representatives. They all wore expressions of determination mixed with terror. How long do we have? General Morrison asked. The fleet will reach your solar system in approximately 4 months, Marcus replied. But their advanced scouts will arrive much sooner, perhaps within weeks. Then we need to begin the evolution process immediately, President Williams said. Yes, Marcus agreed. But understand what you're choosing. Evolution is not reversible. Those who undergo the process will emerge as something new. They may retain their memories and personalities, but they will no longer be human in the way you understand humanity. Sarah felt the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. They were asking the human race to voluntarily transform into something unknown, with no guarantee of success, to face an enemy that had never been defeated. But looking at the architect fleet moving inexorably toward Earth, she realized they had no choice. "Humanity would evolve or die. When do we start?" she asked. Marcus smiled that strange, not quite human smile. "We have already begun." The transformation centers appeared overnight in all 12 cities where the Ascended had first arrived. They grew from the ground like impossible flowers, their crystalline walls reaching hundreds of feet into the sky. Inside each center, the Ascended waited with technology that seemed to blend science and magic into something entirely new. Dr. Sarah Chen stood outside the London Center, watching as the first volunteers lined up to enter. Some were scientists like herself, driven by curiosity about what humanity could become. Others were terminally ill people who saw the process as their only hope for survival. Still others were simply brave souls who understood that someone had to take the first step into humanity's future. "Are you ready, Dr. Chen?" Marcus appeared beside her, his form more solid than usual but still carrying that otherworldly quality that marked all the Ascended. "I don't think anyone can be ready for something like this," Sarah replied, looking up at the towering structure. "What exactly happens inside?" "We awaken the dormant genetic sequences in your DNA," Marcus explained. "The same sequences that allowed your ancestors to survive ice ages and asteroid impacts. But we awaken them all at once and we guide the process to ensure the changes serve your survival, rather than destroying you." Sarah nodded and walked toward the entrance. Behind her, news crews recorded everything, broadcasting the moment live to billions of people around the world. Some viewers prayed for her success. Others protested what they saw as an abandonment of humanity. Most simply watched in fascination and fear. Inside the center, Sarah found herself in a chamber that defied description. The walls seemed to be alive, pulsing with patterns of light that resembled neural networks. The floor was soft and warm under her feet, like walking on living tissue. And in the center of the chamber stood a device that looked like a tree made of pure energy. "Lie down beneath the neural tree," Marcus instructed, gesturing toward a platform that had grown from the floor. "The process will begin immediately and last approximately 6 hours. You will experience visions, memories that are not your own, and sensations your current mind cannot interpret. Do not fight these experiences. Allow them to flow through you." Sarah lay down on the platform. It molded itself to fit her body perfectly, supporting her in a way that felt completely natural. Above her, the energy tree began to pulse faster, its light growing brighter. "Will it hurt?" she asked. "Pain is not the right word," Marcus replied. "You will experience every moment of human evolution compressed into hours. You will feel what it was like when your ancestors first developed language, first used tools, first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. It will be overwhelming, but it will also be beautiful." The light from the tree touched Sarah's forehead, and the world exploded. She was running across African plains, fleeing from predators that no longer existed. She felt the desperate hunger that drove early humans to develop hunting strategies. She experienced the moment when her ancestor first looked at marks in the dirt and understood that they could represent ideas. The visions came faster. She was building the first shelters, taming the first fires, speaking the first words. She felt the wonder of discovering agriculture, the pride of creating the first art, the awe of understanding that the lights in the sky were other suns. But she also experienced the darker moments. The fear when ice covered the world, the desperation when plagues swept through populations, the terror when asteroids lit up the sky and the ground shook for years afterward. Each time she felt something awakening in response to the threat. Something that changed her, adapted her, made her stronger. Hours passed, though Sarah had no awareness of time. She lived through thousands of years of human development, feeling each evolutionary leap as if it were happening to her personally, and gradually she began to understand what made humans special. Other species evolved slowly, over millions of years, in response to gradual environmental changes. But humans evolved rapidly, in just a few generations, in response to existential threats. They didn't just adapt to their environment, they adapted to any environment, any challenge, any impossibility that tried to destroy them. When the visions finally ended, Sarah opened her eyes and immediately knew something fundamental had changed. The world looked different. She could see spectrums of light that hadn't existed before, She could hear sounds beyond the normal human range, and strangest of all, she could sense the mathematical patterns underlying reality itself. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked, though Sarah somehow knew he was speaking before she heard the words. "Different," she replied, sitting up slowly. "But still me. I can think more clearly than I ever have before, but I remember everything about being human." Sarah looked at her hands. They appeared normal, but when she concentrated, she could see the energy flowing through them, the same energy that flowed through everything around her, the walls, the floor, even the air itself. "The awakening is only the beginning," Marcus explained. "Your body and mind will continue to change over the coming days. You will develop abilities that your old self would consider impossible. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility." Over the following weeks, Sarah and the other volunteers underwent changes that amazed and sometimes frightened them. They could sense each other's thoughts when they were close together. They could manipulate small objects without touching them. They could see patterns in seemingly random data that revealed hidden truths about the world. But not everyone survived the process. Some volunteers' minds couldn't handle the expansion of consciousness and retreated into catatonic states. Others transformed so completely that their personalities dissolved entirely, leaving behind beings that were powerful, but no longer recognizably human. The world outside the transformation centers grew increasingly divided. Those who supported the evolution process hailed the volunteers as humanity's salvation. Those who opposed it saw them as traitors who had abandoned their species for alien promises of power. The division led to violence. Military units around the world received orders to shut down the transformation centers. Some soldiers refused, but others followed their orders and attacked. The first confrontation came in Moscow, where an armored division surrounded the transformation center and demanded that the Ascended surrender. Sarah was in London when the news broke, but she could feel the fear and anger of the transformed humans in Moscow as if she were there herself. All the awakened humans had developed a kind of collective consciousness that let them share experiences across vast distances. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 5 minutes. The soldiers fired everything they had at the center: artillery shells, missiles, even small tactical nuclear weapons. None of it had any effect. The crystalline walls simply absorbed the energy and converted it into harmless light. Then the transformed humans emerged from the center. They didn't fight back with violence. Instead, they demonstrated their new abilities. Tanks began to dissolve as their metal was converted back into raw elements. Weapons turned to dust in soldiers' hands. The ground itself became soft and yielding, making it impossible for the attackers to maintain their footing. But the most powerful demonstration came when one of the transformed humans, a former Russian scientist named Dr. Petrov, walked up to the commanding officer and touched his forehead. The officer immediately laid down his weapon and ordered his troops to stand down. "What did you do to him?" Sarah asked Marcus later when they watched recordings of the incident. Dr. Petrov shared his consciousness with the officer, Marcus explained. He allowed the man to experience what it feels like to perceive reality as the awakened do. The officer now understands that the transformed humans pose no threat to humanity. They are humanity's next step. Similar confrontations occurred around the world, each ending the same way. The awakened humans refused to use their powers for violence, instead using them to educate and enlighten those who oppose them. Gradually, the resistance began to crumble as more people understood what the transformation really meant. But even as humanity began to unite behind the evolution process, Marcus brought disturbing news to the awakened volunteers. "The Architect Scouts have entered your solar system," he announced during a gathering of the transformed humans. "They are studying your progress, deciding whether to proceed with their original plan." Sarah felt a chill despite her enhanced physiology. "What are they seeing?" "They are seeing something they have never encountered before," Marcus replied. "Humans who have evolved beyond their original limitations while retaining their essential humanity. You have gained cosmic awareness without losing your capacity for love, compassion, and sacrifice." "Is that good or bad?" asked Dr. Petrov. "We do not know," Marcus admitted. "The architects have never faced this situation before. They may see you as proof that their fears were unfounded, or they may see you as an even greater threat than unmodified humans." Sarah looked around at her fellow transformed humans. They had changed dramatically, but they were still recognizably themselves. They still cared about their families, their friends, their world. They had gained incredible power, but they used it to help rather than dominate. How long before they make their decision? She asked. The architect fleet filled the sky above Earth like geometric storm clouds. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, her transformed senses allowing her to perceive the massive structures directly, rather than through instruments. Each one was a marvel of engineering that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their surfaces covered in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living things. Beside her stood Marcus and representatives from all 12 transformation centers. The awakened humans, as they had come to be called, now numbered in the millions. Each had retained their essential humanity, while gaining abilities that allowed them to perceive and interact with reality in ways their former selves never could have imagined. "They are beautiful," Sarah said, watching the alien vessels. Despite everything she knew about the threat they represented, she couldn't help but admire their impossible architecture. "The architects always were artists as well as engineers," Marcus replied. "They see the universe as a canvas to be perfected, and themselves as the artists responsible for that perfection." A new presence made itself known in the space around Earth. It didn't arrive in a ship or through any visible means of transportation. One moment there was empty space, and the next moment something vast and ancient was there, pressing against the consciousness of every awakened human simultaneously. Sarah felt the touch of an intelligence so old and powerful that it made Marcus and the other Ascended seem like children by comparison. The architect didn't speak in words, but communicated directly through concepts and images that bypassed language entirely. "Humans of Earth," the presence said, its voice resonating in dimensions beyond sound. "We are the architects. We have guided evolution throughout this galaxy for 20 million years. We have come to offer you the same choice we offer all species that reach your level of development." Images flooded the minds of every awakened human. Civilizations across the galaxy living in perfect harmony under architect guidance, beings that had once been aggressive and chaotic, now peaceful and productive. Worlds that had once been torn by war and environmental destruction, now pristine gardens supporting billions of happy, fulfilled inhabitants. "Accept our guidance," the architect continued, "and you will know peace. We will modify your species to remove the destructive impulses that lead to suffering. You will live longer, healthier, more fulfilling lives. You will explore the galaxy under our protection and contribute to the great project of cosmic civilization." "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked, speaking for all of humanity. Images of dead worlds flashed through their minds. Planets reduced to ash and molten rock, species that had rejected architect guidance and been eliminated to prevent them from becoming threats to galactic peace. "Refusal leads to extinction," the architect replied matter-of-factly. "We take no pleasure in destruction, but we cannot allow chaotic forces to threaten the order we have spent millions of years creating." Sarah felt the fear of her fellow humans, but also their determination. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to give up now. "There is a third option," she said. The presence of the architect shifted, and Sarah sensed surprise. In 20 million years of guiding galactic evolution, this was apparently something new. "Explain." "We have evolved beyond our original limitations," Sarah began, choosing her words carefully, "but we have not abandoned what makes us human. We have gained cosmic awareness while retaining our capacity for growth, change, and self-improvement. We represent something you have never encountered before, a species that can be trusted with unlimited potential." Sarah gestured to her fellow awakened humans. "Look at us. We have power that could reshape worlds, but we use it to heal and protect. We have knowledge that could unlock the secrets of the universe, but we share it freely with others. We have transcended our physical limitations, but we have not transcended our compassion." The architect's attention focused more intensely on the assembled humans, studying them with senses beyond human comprehension. Sarah felt like she was being examined down to the atomic level, her every thought and motivation laid bare. "We have observed your development," the architect admitted. "You are unusual. Most species that gain power become corrupted by it. They use their abilities to dominate others or to pursue pleasure without regard for consequences. But we haven't," Sarah said, "and we won't. Our evolution has taught us that true strength comes not from power over others, but from the wisdom to use power responsibly. The architect was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Around Earth, the massive fleet waited motionless, ready to proceed with whatever decision their ancient leader made. "We have seen species that claim to be wise," the architect finally said. "They all eventually proved otherwise. What makes you different?" Sarah looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. This was the moment they had all been preparing for. "Because we remember what it was like to be weak," Sarah said. "Every human carries within them the memory of being helpless, of being afraid, of needing others to survive. We evolved not by abandoning our vulnerability, but by learning to protect it in ourselves and others." She gestured toward Earth below them. "Look at our world. Yes, we have made mistakes. Yes, we have caused suffering. But we have also created art that captures the beauty of existence. We have sacrificed our lives to save strangers. We have chosen to help those weaker than ourselves even when it cost us dearly." Images began to flow from Sarah's mind into the consciousness of the architect. Human achievements that had nothing to do with technology or power. A firefighter running into a burning building to save a child. A doctor working for years in poverty to bring medicine to remote villages. Artists creating beauty not for profit, but for the simple joy of creation. Parents sacrificing their dreams to give their children better lives. We are the first species you have encountered that evolved not just physically and mentally, but morally and spiritually as well, Sarah continued. We have learned that true strength comes from lifting others up, not from tearing them down. The presence of the architect shifted again, and Sarah sensed something she hadn't expected: uncertainty. "Your words are compelling," the architect admitted, "but words are easy. Actions are the true measure of a species." "Then test us," Sarah said without hesitation. "Give us a challenge that will prove our worth. Show us what it means to be responsible members of the cosmic community." The architect considered this for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. Finally it responded, "Very well. We will propose a test. In the Rigel system, there is a species that has just discovered spaceflight. They are aggressive, chaotic, and show every sign of becoming a threat to galactic peace. Our standard procedure would be to eliminate them before they can spread beyond their homeworld." Sarah felt her heart sink. Were they being asked to participate in genocide? However, the architect continued, "You claim that species can evolve beyond their destructive impulses. If this is true, then perhaps these beings can be guided rather than eliminated. We offer you the opportunity to prove your philosophy. Go to the Rigel system. Attempt to guide this species toward wisdom and peace. If you succeed, we will recognize humanity as a fully evolved species and grant you equality in the cosmic community." "And if we fail?" Sarah asked. "If you fail, if these beings become a threat under your guidance, then both their species and yours will be eliminated. The stakes are the existence of two species rather than one." Sarah looked around at her fellow humans. The risk was enormous, but so was the opportunity. If they succeeded, they would not only save humanity, but potentially change how the architects dealt with emerging species throughout the galaxy. "We accept," she said. The architect's presence withdrew slightly, and Sarah sensed approval. "You have one standard galactic year to complete this task. We will provide you with transportation and the means to communicate with the species in question. Beyond that, you must rely on your own wisdom and abilities." The massive fleet began to withdraw from Earth's vicinity, but Sarah knew they weren't leaving entirely. They would be watching, waiting to see whether humanity could prove itself worthy of cosmic citizenship. Marcus turned to Sarah and the other awakened humans. "Are you ready to stake the future of two species on your belief in the power of compassion and wisdom?" Sarah looked down at Earth, where billions of people continued their daily lives, unaware that their fate had just been decided. She thought about everything humanity had accomplished and survived. The species that had endured ice ages and asteroid impacts, that had built civilizations from nothing, that had looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them. "We've been preparing for this test our entire evolutionary history," she said. "We just never knew it." 6 months later, Sarah stood on a world orbiting the star Rigel, watching as the local species took their first tentative steps toward joining the galactic community. They had been aggressive and warlike when humanity first encountered them, but they were learning. Learning about cooperation, about the value of different perspectives, about the strength that comes from unity rather than dominance. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks, moments when violence almost erupted, times when Sarah wondered if they were making any progress at all.